What if there was a different way to live and work? Beyond the hustle and hype, beyond the never-ending race to get more clients, more money, more audience, a way that's nourishing, grounded, creative, connected, and still makes a major impact in the world. You're listening to Wellpreneur with me, your host, Amanda Cook. Join me as we explore alchemy and action for entrepreneurs who want to do well and be well. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Wellpreneur podcast, Focus and Productivity. Do you ever find yourself wishing that you could just be more focused and get more work done in your business? I hear this a lot from Wellpreneurs, that they either have a hard time settling down into work, they don't have enough time to work. When they do have time to work, they're not even sure what they should be focusing on because there's a million things that they need to do in their business. If any of that sounds familiar, you're really going to like this episode where we're going to talk about focus and productivity and how to bring more of it into your life and business. This episode is celebrating a new challenge that I'm going to be running starting on March 9th, 2020. It's the Focused and Productive Mindset Challenge. And by taking part in this free challenge, you're going to be able to shift your mindset to find more focus and get more done in your life and business. I've heard from so many of you that you really struggle with these two issues. So I thought it would be really fun to do a free challenge and get together for 5 days around this issue and start to really make some shifts. This is not about learning a whole bunch of tactics and productivity techniques. This is about getting your head in the right place so that you start to think in the way that a focused and productive entrepreneur thinks, so that you approach your to-do list and your tasks and your business and your life in this way that's going to let it be easy to be more focused and productive. So I'd love it if the entire Wellpreneur community would take part. Actually, that would be really awesome. So if you want to sign up for the Focused and Productive Mindset Challenge, it starts on March 9th, 2020, and you can sign up at wellpreneur.com/mindset. That's wellpreneur.com/mindset. Focus and productivity are absolutely essential as an entrepreneur, right? There are so many things that we could choose to do with our businesses, different ways to market and grow, to find clients, numerous products that we want to create, or maybe we want to write a book or launch a podcast or do an in-person training course or work with more one-on-one clients or hire an assistant. There's so many things we can do. And as one person, as an entrepreneur, you can't do them all. You have to choose. And that's where focus and productivity really come into play. So what's the difference between focus and productivity? Focus is what are you going to work on? So knowing out of all the bunch of things that you could do, where are you going to apply your limited energy, right? We all have that limited amount of energy during the day in general, but also if you tune into yourself, we each have our natural energy flows throughout the day. So like I'm a morning person, so I wake up with tons of energy. So if I want to do really good work, I need to do it first thing in the morning. That's where my big creative work happens, because in the afternoon, I'm just not as sharp. Like the afternoon for me is more time for admin or like things that I don't need to have all my creativity flowing. But some people are just the opposite. Some people really light up in the afternoon or even in the evening. So knowing yourself, and for that limited amount of energy when you're at your peak during the day, what are you going to spend those valuable hours on? That's focus. Now, productivity is different. Productivity is about getting stuff done, right? So it's about doing productive work. So not just doing busy work, but doing stuff that's really cranking through some work and making it happen, completing tasks and projects. So productivity has a lot to do with understanding, taking a big chunk of work and breaking it down into the pieces, into the steps and into the tasks so that you can start to tick those off your list and really be productive at making progress on getting that work done. Now, either of these two alone isn't really that effective. Because if you're just focused, so you're able to look at all the tasks and decide what you should work on, but then you have a hard time actually finding time to work or getting down into work, or you're getting distracted, that's no good. On the other hand, you might be really good at doing work, but you're just doing all the things. So you're doing just a little bit of everything and cranking through tons of work, but not really making much progress because you're not focused. You're scattering that energy across all sorts of different things. So that doesn't work either. So the sweet spot is finding the combination of focus and productivity. Those hours that you can work, those limited hours that we have, you can be spending those on the right things to really make a difference, to move you towards your goals. That's the sweet spot that we want to find, where we can be focused and productive. So maybe you've had an experience where you were rewarded just for doing lots of work. Like this can happen in a day job. And I know I've had that in a couple of the roles I've been in, where it's really about showing up. You need to be there for certain hours, and looking like you're busy, actually being busy, is what's important. So you're constantly doing lots of stuff. You're replying to all the emails. You're doing all the documents. You're going to all the meetings. You're doing all the things. There's lots of activity. There's lots of productivity, but there's not necessarily a translation into lots of results in that case, right? Have you ever had a job like that? Or maybe you've even found in your own business, you can have a day where you just do tons of stuff and you get loads of stuff checked off your list, but yet you're not doing anything that really moves the needle forward. Now, I have to say, I see this a lot with clients, and maybe if you didn't recognize the previous thing, maybe you'll recognize this in yourself. But I'll see a lot of new wellpreneurs that will do tons of work around things like setting up their social media profiles and doing their website and like creating all these beautiful PDFs as handouts and designing their business cards and like making sure their social media is a big one of these, totally optimized, and researching loads of stuff and learning about all these topics and marketing strategies. But the thing that they're not doing is generating any revenue. And for a new business, that's often the most important thing you need to get going, is you need to get a little bit of revenue. So rather than just spending a fraction of that work time and using that work time to do something very focused and a little bit scary, like reaching out to potential clients, which is something that's actually going to bring in revenue, you spend way more time running around like crazy doing 1,000 other things that aren't actually that productive because you're not really getting yourself towards the goal. So the sweet spot is being focused and productive. So you're spending that work energy on the things that really matter. Because as entrepreneurs, something I've learned the hard way is that it's not about hustling and working harder and the amount of hours you put in. Now, I'm not saying, of course, you're going to work hard, you're going to put in your hours, but she who puts in the most hours does not have the most success. This is something I really struggled with in the beginning because I felt like it should work that if you're being a diligent hard worker and really trying your best, then you should be successful. And it just doesn't work that way because it's not about working more and doing all the things. It's about being very focused on the type of business that you want to create. The type of business that fits your life. And then spending your limited working hours clearly going towards that goal. It's amazing. That's actually working less. And it can feel a lot easier because you cut down on all the clutter, but the results you get are so much better. That's what focus and productivity can bring you, and it's such a good feeling. Just imagine for yourself, how would you feel if you were focused and productive so that you knew when you sat down to work, even if you didn't have that much time to work, that the things that you were working on were really moving you towards your goals? How would that feel? I know for so many wellpreneurs, they can feel like you're just spinning your wheels or you're working on all sorts of things, but you're not sure if they're the right things. And you feel like you're a little bit overwhelmed and confused because there's all these things you could be doing. And there's always this vague feeling like you're just not doing enough. I hate that one. Like you can work all day and still it feels like, oh, maybe I should have done more. Was that enough? If we could eliminate that feeling so that you could just really know, this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm focused, and then to have some simple strategies to really allow you to be productive to get there. That's good. That would just feel awesome, right? You'd really make progress in your business. So let's take a look at what blocks us from being more focused and productive. What blocks us from being the entrepreneurs that we really want to be and to be able to create these businesses that we want to create? I've got 4 things I'm going to go over that are these blocks that we have that keep us from being more focused and productive. And what's so interesting is that these blocks are within our control. They're either in our mindset or in the way that we're functioning in the world, and they're things that we can change. That's what's so cool. You don't need to be innately born as some crazy, productive, focused person. You can just make some simple shifts and tune in and shift your mindset and learn a few little skills, and then you can have this too. This does not involve changing who you are at your core. It doesn't mean that you need to suddenly become like some super productive person that learns this crazy productivity system. Not at all. In fact, you'll see a lot of these 4 blocks, they're really inside you. They're you and the way that you're perceiving the world, and there's something that we can change. If you want to dig into these even more, I would love it if you join my Focused and Productive Mindset Challenge that's starting on March 9th. Again, that's wellpreneur.com/mindset. So you can sign up for that challenge and join us to delve into this more deeply. Okay, so let's look at these 4 areas that block us from being as focused and productive as we want to be. The first one is priorities. So this totally makes sense. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what your priorities are, how are you going to know where to focus in your business? Now, this sounds so obvious, but it's not always that clear. So I see a lot of wellpreneurs that hesitate and kind of put off making a decision about what kind of business they actually want to create. So I'll hear a lot of people saying things like, I don't really care. I just need my business to make X amount of money, to make $5,000 a month so I can quit my day job. And you don't really care how you get there. And the problem is when you're so wide open about the type of business that you want to create, it's really hard to know where to focus and to have any sort of filter on which strategies are right for you. So you've really got to, this is where with priorities, we need to be a little bit decisive and practice being decisive and just making a decision about, okay, I'm going to have a little plan. So I'm going to build my business this way through one-on-one clients, or I'm going to build my business through group programs or something. And whatever you pick, you don't need to have it forever, but you need to make a decision so that for some period of time, like at least 6 months or a year, you can be focused on that plan. Because otherwise what happens is you start to get one-on-one clients and then you shift and you start to look at a group program. And then you think, well, maybe instead I'll start to do some consulting, or I'll write a book, or I'll launch a podcast, and you go all over the place. You get much better results and go further to be focused on one thing. And so the key for that is knowing what your priorities are. So just simple things like thinking through, what type of business do you want to create? How do you love to work with people? What season are you in of your business or your life? We've talked about this in previous episodes, that there's different seasons of life. And sometimes your business might be your top priority, and other times your family or other things are your top priority. Right? And that's okay. But you need to be honest with yourself about that so you know what your priorities are. It's not really fair to compare your business to somebody else's if you have different priorities that you're working on. So the first big block that I see wellpreneurs encountering around not being focused and productive is just not being clear on your priorities and what you want to create. And so if that's you, forgive yourself about not being focused, because how can you be focused if you don't know where you're going? Right? This is an area where we can start to dig into our plans and our dreams and our ideal business and start to really pull together a plan so that we can be focused around that. Okay, block number 2 that keeps us from being as focused and productive as we want to be. Not trusting yourself. Not trusting yourself. This is such a huge one and it runs deep. So If you're constantly doubting yourself, like you don't really know what's best, you're not sure if this is the right path for your business, and you're constantly looking outside yourself for validation and guidance, then you're not going to be focused and productive because you've always got this nagging feeling like, well, I think I'm going to do that, but I'm not sure if it's not right. So let me look around for other options. And if you're constantly scanning for other options and other experts' input and other ways to do things, you're not going to make progress because this is where you just start spinning because you start one thing and then you doubt yourself and then you look around for more options and then you maybe try something else and you're not sure about that. This is crazy making. I know it's so difficult to be in this position. So in this case, this is where you can really start to look within and do some exercises and tools to start to strengthen your connection to your inner knowing, your inner guide, and trusting in a way that you don't need to figure it out perfectly. You just need to figure out the next step, the one next step. And you do that. And then after that, you'll figure out the next step. Right? So we don't need to figure out the entire huge plan up front. So not trusting yourself and looking around for other people to tell you the way is something that really can hold you up from being focused and productive. Can you see how these aren't really about learning a productivity system? Yes, there's a little bit of element of that about how are you going to work and when and where and how, but a lot of it is about mindset and these other inner, deeper issues that really stop us from being able to be focused and productive in our businesses. Okay, the third block that keeps us from being focused and productive is procrastination. Have you ever experienced this one? I know that I don't procrastinate that often. I'm pretty good about that. But if there's something that's scary that I don't want to do, that's when procrastination shows up for me. And for me, it always ends up being cleaning or organizing or decluttering. So if I find myself on a work day at the time I'm supposed to be working, organizing my sock drawer, or suddenly with this big impulse to clean the kitchen, then I've learned to catch myself and be like, okay, what's really going on here? What's that task that I'm trying to get out of doing, right? So what's interesting, if you notice yourself procrastinating, and it doesn't have to be cleaning, but I know for a lot of people it is, you might watch YouTube videos or check social media. That's a huge one. You might, and I'm doing air quotes here, you might market your business on social media. So people will tell themselves that they're doing social media marketing and doing things for their business, and really you're just scrolling through your Instagram feed. You might listen to podcasts under the guise of learning, I can't do that because I need to learn all about it first. Have you ever done that one? I know that's really common in the Wellpreneur community. So it's interesting if you find yourself procrastinating to just start to notice, be curious and gentle with yourself and start catching yourself when you do that and just inquire gently. Don't beat yourself up about it. Oh no, I'm procrastinating again. But what if you could just be curious and gentle with yourself and be like, I'm doing my procrastination behavior again. I wonder what I'm avoiding, and see what that brings up for you. And the final block, well, let's talk about the 3 we've done so far. So the blocks to keep us from being focused and productive: not knowing your priorities, not trusting yourself, procrastinating and getting caught up in doing other unimportant things. And the number 4 thing that keeps us from being focused and productive is lack of structure. So do you have a dedicated workspace? Even if you don't have a whole office, do you have an area of your home that is a dedicated workspace? Do you have a regular dedicated work time so that you know when you're going to work? Do you have some way to keep track of your tasks and what you're working on? How do you know when you sit down to work what the thing is that you need to do next? All of these things are really simple and effective structures you can put in place to make it easier to get into work. So if you don't have some of those things, I'm not surprised that it's hard to be focused and productive. I know a lot of wellpreneurs don't have a dedicated workspace. And so when you are getting ready to work, first you have to clear off the kitchen table, and then you need to go find your computer and then set it up. And is it charged? And if not, you have to figure out how to charge it from the kitchen table, and then find your notebook. And then when you finally get all your stuff, Well, where were you? Because you've taken that break from working and now you might have lost momentum and you have to get your head back into it. So all of these things, by putting some really simple structures and practices in place, I don't mean changing your whole life or learning some productivity system, but just putting some really simple habits in place around this, you can make it easier so that you know when you're going to work, where you're going to work, and what you're going to work on. So that can be another issue for wellpreneurs. And to be honest, that's the easiest one of all of them to fix, because the other ones are more mindset. They're deeper. Whereas the structure is you just need to learn some simple tools, and that can fit into everybody's life, even if you don't have a totally dedicated workspace or regular work times. So you can start to carve out like a little system that works just for you. So I hope this episode has highlighted for you maybe a couple areas where you're like, oh yeah, I kind of do that, where you can see that through some simple shifts, you can start to be more focused and productive. Now, if you'd like to dive into this much more in detail, I'd love for you to join me for the Focused and Productive Mindset Challenge. We start on March 9th, 2020. It's totally free to join. It's going to be 5 days. I'm creating a special Facebook group just for the challenge so that we'll all be in there together going through these mindset challenges. I'll be on Facebook Live talking with you. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be kind of like a focused and productive mindset challenge party in a way, where we can all join virtually from all around the world. It's going to be great. So I'd love if you join me for that. You can sign up at wellpreneur.com/mindset. That's MINDSET. And it's always more fun to do these things with friends, right? So if you can think of a friend who would also love a little boost in their focus and productivity, invite them to join with you and we can all go through this together. So I'll be back here next week for our next episode, and I'll also hopefully see you next week in our Facebook group for the Focused and Productive Mindset Challenge. Woohoo! That starts on March 9th. It's great. Okay. I can't wait to see you there. Have a fantastic week, and I hope this has given you some insights into how you can bring a little more focus and productivity into your daily life. Have a great one, and I'll talk to you really soon.